Paranormal King Radio Network, bringing you the best paranormal hosts and guests. Bringing you the best paranormal shows and features. Playing the top musical artists from around the world. Paranormal King Radio Network. With the best paranormal hosts and guests. The best in paranormal shows and features. Playing the best musical artists from around the world. Paranormal King Radio Network. The paranormal will never be the same.
My name is Stephen Urcantello, founder and lead investigator of Superior Paranormal. My first encounter with spirits occurred when I was a teenager living in Fort Myers, Florida. As of recent, I've decided to fully dedicate myself to the paranormal, uncovering a passion within that I now breathe, sleep, and live for. Not only am I here to share my stories from personal experiences and documented experiences, but also to hear, share, and understand your encounters, adventures, and paranormal events. So follow me as we discuss theories, opinions, facts, and the experiences of others as they share their superior paranormal events. Good evening, everybody. My name's Stephen Urcantello. Thanks for joining me
Paranormal
tonight.
King
really
Radio Network.
It is my debut, so I appreciate everybody who's tuning in, who's listening, and who also is in chat right now, which is awesome. You know, it's more interactive if anybody wants to come on in through chat, ask some questions throughout this segment. Right now, I have a special guest with me. Her name's Becky Gideson from Tucson, Arizona. She's actually a founder with her own team out there in Tucson, and also the owner of Tucson Ghost Company, which includes numerous types of tours out there, from the Tucson Ghost Tour, Tucson Ghost Experience, Drive Haunted Tucson. She's here with me right now. Becky, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you this evening?
I'm doing well. Thanks.
Well, congratulations on your show.
Thanks for being the first guest. I really appreciate that. I'm excited. You know, I've done some research on you, and I'm excited to kind of know more about you from, you know, the paranormal side. It's going to be interesting.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Can you kind of tell everybody who's listening right now about your team in general? Like, are you by yourself? Do you have a team with you? How often do you investigate with the team? Just kind of go into detail with that.
Okay, sure. I actually have 2 team members as of right now that are active. It's an all-girl team as of right now. We tend to try to investigate as often as we can. We also do residential cases, though. So it's not just going into business. We, help people in need. We just finished up a case this past weekend. We're going over evidence review now. It's really exciting. We love doing it. We have a passion for it, and it's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is really good to hear. What case did you have over the weekend?
It was a residential case. So it was a homeowner, a husband, wife, and a son They just felt like they were being threatened by some entities. So we went in there and did some EVPs and all that stuff. And that's what we're reviewing now to see what we found.
Those are always interesting, like house investigations, private investigations, because you never know what to expect, unlike other things that can be manipulated by other people going in and investigating them, such as larger locations. So you'll probably find some really interesting things, I think, anyways. What do you think? Do you think private homes are a little more interesting than known locations?
Yeah, honestly, I do because, when you go into known locations, you're going in knowing, hey, this person found this or this person found that. And so you kind of have an idea of what you're looking for.
Hmm.
But when you go into the private ones, you have no idea what you're dealing with. So it's kind of cool and it's more fun. I mean, sometimes you come out with nothing, but sometimes you get some great evidence.
Agreed. I do agree with you on that. So what about your companies that you have? I saw that you actually, you do host the Tucson Ghost Company, which is a bunch of tours, and you do so many tours out there. Can you just explain some of those to everybody? Are they all the same? Are they just named different? Do you go to different locations? How does that work out?
Yes, they are each different. I have several different ones going on. I have Tucson Ghost Tour, which is basically a walking tour of downtown Tucson. We take you to about a dozen different locations and we tell you the ghost stories of each location. And then I have Tucson Ghost Experience, which is kind of like a lockdown ghost hunting experience. We actually take you into a haunted building and we lock you into the building and the haunted courtyard. And you actually use some of the equipment to try to communicate with the spirits. And then I have a brand new one that's starting, which is Drive Haunted Tucson, which is a driving tour to where we drive to about 5 or 6 different locations and get out. And I tell you the little ghost stories. And at some of the locations, we actually use equipment on those too. And then to top it off, I do have special events that I do with different companies. We just wrapped up a special event with the Museum of the Horse Soldier. We were doing ghost hunts and tours through there.
Mm-hmm.
On Halloween night, I'm doing one with the Fox Theater. The cool thing about Fox Theater was my team has been the first team to get in there to investigate. So that's been really awesome.
That is really awesome. That's exciting.
Very much so.
Have you found any evidence, like exciting evidence in the Fox Theater since you have been the first team?
Yes, we actually did. We did catch what we believe to be an apparition on video. It's up on our YouTube. Unfortunately, we have to try to edit it better to make it more obvious, but there's a flash of light that happens. And when you pause that flash of light, you can actually see a face in it. We also had some flashlights that were sitting downstairs when we were up just watching the monitors and chilling, and those flashlights turned on all by themselves. Nobody was down there. So that was pretty cool. And then, some EVPs, of course.
Of course, yes. EVPs, I love EVPs. Like, I just think they're one of the most outstanding. I mean, nobody else is in the room with you, so it's
Right.
I don't know, I just phenomenal when it comes to the paranormal and EVP type ways. So there's a question in chat
Okay.
from Darby. She was curious as to what kind of equipment do you use, you and your team?
My team, we use basically DVR systems. I have an 8-channel DVR system. We have handheld, IR cameras, of course, the regular K2s, millimeters, REM pod. We also have what we call Boo. He's a dog stuffed animal, kind of like the REM pod.
It's not a real dog?
No, it's not a real dog. We
Okay.
call him Boo, though, but he's a trigger object, and he acts like the REM pod, so he's really cute. We love using him. He doesn't go off very often, but we like using him.
Yeah, that's kind of exciting. Maybe even for, if you go to a location where there's kids, they love stuffed animals and stuff.
Exactly. That's why we decided we wanted to get him. And he did go off at Fox Theater. And there is known to be a little girl that haunts there, so we think that maybe she did interact with it.
Very interesting. Now, I did talk to you, I think a couple weeks ago, we were talking about an investigation that you did. I can't remember the name of the location, but you did say you wanted to return back there, and it was 2 separate buildings. One I believe was a hospital, and you did feel more of a darker presence in this location.
Yes, that was actually in Jerome.
Okay.
I went up there just for a vacation. This is what I do. I go to haunted places even on vacations. And we stayed there. It was actually my anniversary. And we stayed the weekend in the Grand Jerome, which is a haunted hotel. And we did the ghost hunt. And the ghost hunt went into the old hospital that they made into a clubhouse. And while I was in there, I could feel a negative energy. It's very hard to explain, but anyone that does this knows, you can tell when there's negative energy in a room.
Mm-hmm.
And I could feel it. And, I ended up leaving, and it kind of stayed with me for a few hours. But the next day when I was driving home, I told, my husband, I'm like, we need to go back. I got to take my team back in there. I got to investigate that place. So I'm trying to work on going back there. The other one was probably that we were talking about was probably one of the very first investigations I ever did here in Tucson.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I can't name the location because it's under new ownership, but it was a local bar and restaurant at one point in time, very popular. It got closed down, unfortunately, and again, we were the only team that had been in there, and then it switched owners, so we've been the only team ever to get in there. And that was a very, very active location. And we had so much happen in there. It was amazing.
See, a lot of people, I did some research on Tucson, and a lot of people don't realize how haunted that area really is.
Oh, yeah. It's a known fact that, people kind of overlook Tucson when it comes to hauntings. They think Arizona, and the first things they think of is Tombstone, Bisbee, Jerome. And they don't stop and think that Tucson's one of the top haunted locations. We have forts that date back to the 1800s that, we still have the buildings around, the forts around, lots of history. I mean, downtown Tucson wasn't very smart and built on top of graveyards. So, of course, that, causes some problems.
Absolutely. And a lot of those forts are built with natural substances from the earth, which are just pure energy that spirits need to feed off of.
Right,
so that definitely keeps them basically trapped within that environment, especially if that's all they've ever known. So, I mean, that just calls for a good haunting, all in all. Not a lot of locations are still up that have that type of foundation anymore. So I know it does sound like Tucson has plenty of that out there.
Oh, yeah, it definitely does. And, if people were just to come and experience, they would find it out themselves for sure.
Now, doing the tours, I know you probably have to talk to a lot of people out there in Tucson and, let them know, you are a paranormal investigator. And then, of course, they want to ask you questions. What questions do people ask you the most when you tell them that you are a paranormal investigator?
Right off the bat, I would have to say the first question out of their mouth is, do ghosts exist? And my answer is, well, I would hope so. Otherwise, I'm doing this for nothing.
That's very true.
But that seems to be the most common, whenever you mention ghosts, that they want the answer. Do they really exist? And that's why I'm here. I'm trying to prove that they do.
There you go. And when they kind of ask that, I mean, what would you personally consider to be a definitive proof that ghosts are real from you? Like, how would your experiences, what are just hardcore proof for you to know, okay, this is real life, like this stuff does exist? How can I share it to the world?
Right. Well, unfortunately, the personal experiences are just personal, so I can't prove those. But the EVPs I have gotten some Class A EVPs where there is no question about it. And there is nobody else in the room besides me and my team. And we're females, and you get this male voice. I mean, how can you explain that?
Now, when you say Class A, what exactly do you mean by that? Do you mean just to where you don't have to enhance the audio at all? You just distinctly know what it says? Is that what you mean by Class A?
Yes, definitely. I mean, we will play it, and, my team never consults each other until after we each listen to it. And we all, say without a doubt, this is what it said. There was no enhancing, no nothing. And we knew right off the bat what it said.
Absolutely. How long have you and your team been together for?
For about 2.5 years now.
That's pretty good. That's a solid team. It's hard to find a solid team like that works well together.
All right. Well, we've had some people come and go, but, the three of us have been sticking together for a while now.
Well, what do you think the hardest part about being a paranormal investigator is?
The evidence review.
Oh, it does. It takes so long too. I don't think a lot of people realize how long that takes. And then when you do capture something, you have to spend even more time trying to break it down. Okay, is this class A? Can you hear good? What does it have to do with? What are they trying to tell me? It does take a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had people join the team because, they wanted to be this ghost hunter and, they figured it was just going into the building and hunting ghosts. And then when it came time to doing all the other stuff, they kind of lost interest.
Yeah. Oh, the most exciting part. Everybody wants to be involved in the exciting part.
Right.
Nobody wants to do the behind the scenes. Do you think there's a difference? You mentioned ghost hunter just now. Do you think there's a difference between ghost hunters and paranormal investigators?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of choice of what people want to call themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I normally call myself a paranormal investigator. When it comes to actually ghost hunter, I think of people that really are just out there trying to find the ghost, but not actually trying to prove that they exist.
True.
So
there's another question here from Amy Jo in the chat. She says, have you had a personal experience that has convinced you personally that there are spirits in the afterlife? If so, explain.
oh gosh, where do I begin? I would have to say the one that kind of freaked me out the most and convinced me the most was from being followed home. I went on the investigation. The spirit actually followed me home, and I actually saw him at the foot of my bed.
Oh, so you saw like the full apparition just standing there?
Basically, yes. And that was kind of something new to me, and I never had seen that before, never experienced that before, and it kind of shocked me. And it was like there and then gone.
Mm-hmm. Where was this location at?
That was my very first location.
Okay.
Yeah, and the funny thing is we nicknamed this guy Richie because he followed me around for a good probably 6 months, and he just followed me from that investigation, stuck around for like 6 months, and then he's finally gone. So
no harm, no anything, just kind of tagged along with you.
Yeah, I don't know if he was more like a protector to me for a while or what it was, but every EVP session we did, we would hear him.
Even in your house?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I've done EVP sessions in my house, and yes, he was there, and he was kind of he was a smart aleck. So he would be kind of like a smart ass and make little comments here and there, but he wasn't hurtful or anything like that. But
yeah,
you could definitely tell it was him, and he had a little bit of an attitude.
They're always fun to deal with in real life and in the afterlife, right?
Yeah, of course. Your personality travels with you, so
it does.
Yes.
So another question: you've done plenty of investigations, I can tell by just your stories and everything, and then throughout your tours, do you have a certain procedure that you do from beginning to end, or does it kind of just vary depending on the location, the history, and just how things are, or do you always have a certain procedure?
We like to try to have, a certain way of doing things, but, you always get those little things thrown at you that changes it. What we always try to do is we try to research the property, of course, see what we can come up with. When it's, personal or business, I try to interview the people, get the stories, the, behind the scenes of what's going on. And then when we go in there, we try to do, the normal baseline readings and things like that. And then we actually do the investigation, and then we wrap up, and do all the evidence review. Now, as for that going that smoothly all the time, no.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just get people that, they're desperate to get you in. So you skip, the research at first, and you go ahead, get in there to try to help them. And then you do the research after.
Mm-hmm.
So, it kind of does vary, but, I try to stick to at least some type of pattern at some point in time.
Yeah. Now, do you like getting the information, kind of history and research and everything beforehand or afterhand, or just the bare minimum in order to not be influenced by what other people have captured there prior?
Right. When it comes to businesses, I basically try to do it afterwards because especially if it's been a business somebody else has been in to investigate.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to a personal residence, I try to do the research beforehand. Especially because of the fact that, I hate to say it, but you kind of got to watch out for yourself. And so you got to kind of research the people to make sure that you're going to be safe going into, their home. So I try to do that, first when it comes to personal residence.
Absolutely. There's another question here in chat. It says, if you're convinced of the afterlife and you believe already, then why do you continue to investigate?
Because I want to try to convince other people.
You want to convince them?
I want to convince, because there are some people that I've ran into all kinds of people, and some of them believe it's all evil. Some of them don't believe it exists. So I want to try to show people, look, it's not all evil. It does exist.
Mm-hmm.
And besides that, I also want to continue to help people in need. There are some people out there that they literally don't know what to do when it comes to this stuff, and they feel so lost and hopeless and helpless. And, I've been on cases to where I've gone and interviewed them, and they've sat there and they've cried to me because they're just so concerned about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to give up, helping people.
Absolutely. And a lot of them might even, they see how they act on these TV shows and they make things worse.
Right.
Because they assume that might be the only way to go about it. And it doesn't really help them, just hurts them.
Right.
Now, when you go about the investigations and you feel a negative spirit around, do you try to get away from that entity, or do you stick by it? If it follows you around, do you kind of provoke it a little more to just wonder what are you doing? Why are you following me type deal? Or do you just try to stray away from it to not have any negative attachments towards you?
I will have to say I've gotten braver throughout doing this. When I first started, if I knew something was negative, I hesitated about going, because I didn't want to have to face it. And it was all new to me when I first started. But over the time, I have faced it. I've, come head on with it. I don't say that I provoke it, but I do stand my ground with it.
Good.
There's been times to where, I've had to walk away for a couple seconds because I've had to, put my head back on my shoulder type thing.
Of course.
But then I've gone back in, and I basically said, hey, no. I had one resident case that they had what they called the Black Shadow Man, and he was the threat to them. And when I was investigating, I literally started feeling sick. It was like this entity was making me feel ill. And I had to step out. I just had to, because I was getting overwhelmed with feeling nauseous and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I calmed down, I went back in there and I put my foot down and I said, you are not allowed to do this and you must leave now. After standing my ground, apparently it did leave, and they haven't had any problems with this Black Shadow Man since.
Now, what about your other team members? How do they feel about it?
They let me do it. This is why they like to call me the fearless leader. I'm always the first one in. I'm always the last one out. And yeah, I'm always the one that puts my foot down.
Do you three separate inside of a location and go one person in one room, another in another, another in another, and just kind of you use your own personalities in each room? Or do you stick together? To certain points.
If it's within earshot of each other to where we can just yell for each other if we need each other, then yes. If it's in too large of a location where we can't do that, we stick together. And it's not necessarily because, we're afraid of being alone. It's more, when it's larger locations, it's usually businesses. So it's more of, what if people come in? Mm-hmm. It's more of a, let's protect ourselves from, people that may come in and cause harm more than spirits.
Absolutely. There's another question in chat.
Okay.
Says, how do you think you could ever convince someone of the afterlife? Whoops, it disappeared on me. How do you think you could... disappeared again. How do you think you could ever convince someone of the afterlife unless they were with you when the evidence was caught?
That is a tough question. Unfortunately, when it comes to investigations, I never take people with me because of the fact that, I don't want to put innocent people that don't know what they're dealing with in any type of situation that could cause them harm. So one thing I always suggest is, take one of my ghost tours, take one of my ghost hunts. Mm-hmm. be there and witness what happens. That way, if something comes back on the EVP, right off, hey, that wasn't happening when we were that voice wasn't there.
Yeah, seeing is believing. You can't really
Right.
be a skeptic anymore if you just witnessed it.
Right, exactly. And unfortunately, you can't sit there and, you can talk until you're blue in the face and present evidence until you're blue in the face, but if they don't witness it themselves, then sometimes there's just no convincing them.
I've had a lot of people, whenever I tried to get them to join me on an investigation because they don't believe it, they end up bailing right at the last minute.
Yeah,
So,
some people are just afraid of the unknown. I think that's what it is more than anything.
They want to know, but they don't want to know.
Yeah,
They want to
exactly.
kind of tippy toe around it. So there's another question here in chat from Denise asking, how far have you gone for an investigation?
How far have I gone?
Yeah.
Travel-wise, we've traveled about 2 hours. I always tell people that I will travel within a day's worth of driving. So as long as I can travel within a day, I would love to travel the country and do it, but money is the issue there.
Yeah, get inside of a Winnebago and everyone just travel around.
Right, exactly.
Slap some sponsors on the side of it and just have fun.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to travel the country and do that, but unfortunately, the money thing holds me back. But I am more than willing to, as long as I can drive there and help people out, I'm more than willing to do it.
Where would you want to go? You and your team do the greatest place ever that you could ever investigate in the United States.
United States. Okay, in the United States, I would probably want to go to Ohio State.
Reformatory?
Yeah, exactly. I'm from Ohio.
And you've never been?
I've never been there. So being that I'm from Ohio, I want to do that.
Yeah, we've all definitely heard the stories about Ohio. It's the Reformatory.
Yes, definitely.
Definitely a large location too, so
Yeah.
worth it. Do you use any psychic mediums when you go on your investigations, or have you ever brought any in or consulted one prior to an investigation or even afterwards to see if it validates what you've captured?
No, I have not. Not that I'm against them or anything like that, but especially beforehand, I like to go in there with an open mind. And, I don't want my team thinking, oh, this exists or this exists. To a lot of extent, I don't even tell my team everything that's happening at the location because of the fact that, if something happens that the client says happens, I want them to experience them themselves and not, sit there and look for it type thing, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And so whenever you go in with your team and all, you know most of the information for the most part. You're the leader of the group, basically. You
Yes.
have everything that needs to be known. You have it. If you don't have it, it really doesn't necessarily need to be known at that time.
Right.
Awesome. Where do you kind of see the future within the paranormal? Where do you see yourself?
Where do I see myself in it?
Yeah, with the paranormal.
Hopefully doing this for the rest of my life and being a big part of it. I really hope that, my company is going to be taking off, I hope. And, I hope that, I can travel and do this. I mean, that would be the biggest dream come true for me, is to, be able to go to these different locations and investigate and gather my own evidence, not evidence that, I've heard from other people, but my very own. That would be awesome.
Yeah, to experience it yourself and just edit it down and everything else. That'd be great.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, do you think the equipment that you use and the technology that you use within the paranormal, do you think that it's super important to use that type of things? I mean, in order to document the evidence, of course, it's important because all in all, this is a spectator's show. I mean, without being able to show stuff, people will never believe it. So,
right, exactly.
I mean, do you think all the equipment that's used, or do you think just using the bare minimum for the most part is really all that's needed? Or do you need all this high-tech, fancy, thousands of dollars worth of equipment?
Well, I haven't spent thousands of dollars, thank God, because I would really be homeless. But, I do have, the basic DVR system and things like that. Is it necessary? Yes and no. Yes, because if you actually capture something, that's more of your proof. No, because you can have the experiences without the equipment. I've had so many experiences to where I've had no equipment go off, but it's happened to me personally. Unfortunately, though, as you said, to document it, you need that equipment there. So it's kind of a yes or no. It's difficult because some of the equipment doesn't document everything that happens, unfortunately. I've had so many things happen that's been off camera, so they've just been personal experiences, and that's
And
kind of rough, but
it is. It's horrible when that happens. Some of the greatest evidence too happens, and the camera's just not there. Even though
yeah.
they're recording, it just happens to be in that one corner that the camera wasn't rolling.
Yes, and that's what happened with Fox Theater too, is I was sitting at the monitors and I saw a shadow move, but when I went to play it back, the camera was in such a bad position that you could not catch the actual shadow. So
Oh,
we missed out on the shadow, which really sucked. And
it does.
um, I did Birdcage Theater. I went in there, I paid to take my team in there, and we're sitting down, and there's cameras all around, but not one pointed at me. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there and I'm talking to the little girl, I believe they call her Sally, that haunts the place.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling her how I'm a mom and invite her to come over and play with me and sit on my lap, and I get this extreme cold spot on my lap, and then I had a pouch on, and you literally see my zipper pull up and move. Now, my team member witnessed this, but there's no camera at all on me. So I was like,
That is horrible.
yeah,
I've had the experiences where something is around me, but the camera decides to get extremely blurry right at the moment where I needed to actually record something.
oh, of course.
Yeah.
It always works that way.
Exactly. What is your favorite piece of equipment to use?
It's actually my simple recorder.
So you're an EVP person. That's the
Yes.
greatest thing that you enjoy. Class
Yeah.
A EVPs.
Yes, definitely. Because that's where we've caught most of our evidence is in with the EVPs.
I agree.
Because we've had a night to where we've sat there and not much has happened, and we're thinking, this is a dead location. And we play back the EVPs and we catch some really good ones.
Mm-hmm.
The night that, we were at that one resident where the spirit was, making me sick, I had made a comment, what's making me sick? And right after I made that comment, Class A EVP saying, maybe it's allergies.
Maybe it's allergies. That's what
Yes.
the EVP said.
Yeah. And it was a guy's voice. And again, just girls.
Wow. Where did you say this was at?
That was at a private residence.
A resident's house? This wasn't
Yes.
the resident that you did last weekend, was it?
No, it was not.
Okay.
No, we're still reviewing that evidence.
So speaking of how amazing the evidence is that you capture, with it saying direct replies to your questions, how does this affect your family? This is a question inside chat. It does ask, how does investigating affect your family?
It can be interesting. I've had things, follow me home. I've had to cleanse my house. I did have negative follow me before. You could feel a negative energy in my house. I did have to cleanse. Like I said, I've seen shadows in my house. I've had my electric stuff go haywire, literally. And then my kids. I have 4 daughters, and they range from ages 4 to 16. And my kids, they're back and forth with it. Sometimes they're scared of it. Sometimes they're okay with it. And sometimes they like to blame the ghost for things that happen around the house, even though I know that I have no spirits at home at that point in time.
You might as well. If they can get away with it, you might as well.
Yeah, I guess they figured, hey, if we can blame a ghost, let's do that. So the one that, I worry about the most is actually my youngest, the 4-year-old. There's been times that, she's afraid to go to a room in the dark. And she's claimed to have seen things. And I've taken her when I was practicing my tours before to a location, and she was playing with a little girl, and she thought it was a real little girl, but none of us could see her, but she could. So I know for sure she has interacted with spirits.
And now, you think kids are more prone to seeing this type of thing due to them still being innocent to what these situations are?
Yes, definitely. I definitely believe that, and I've been on cases to where the kids have the most experience in the house because, they're they're not raised, to think, oh, this is wrong, it doesn't exist, blah, 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 like you are as an adult. The kids are still, the innocent, oh, I didn't know that that didn't exist type thing. And, the kids have seen, the most in the house. As for my kids, I do think that they a lot of times do experience more than, my husband and I. My daughter, my oldest one, has woke up in the middle of the night feeling someone at the foot of her bed and seeing a little girl at the foot of her bed. So, I definitely think that they've had some experiences. At first, it was kind of, scary for them. They weren't really, feeling threatened or anything like that, but just something new. And now I think when they do experience something, it's not as freaky to them as it used to be.
Yeah, they just kind of get used to it throughout
Right.
the days and weeks. I have a few questions coming in on Facebook actually right now.
Okay.
This one is from Sandra. She says, since you love the EVPs and using the digital voice recorder, she's kind of just starting out in the field and would like to know, what is the best recorder to buy? Do you have a certain type of recorder that you enjoy using? Is it, a certain brand by any chance?
Honestly, I have just went out and I bought a recorder from Walmart and it works perfectly. I think my team members did the same thing. Now we are looking for one of our next major purchases to buy, one of those, more advanced ones, to see if we can actually catch even more. But just to start out, just a basic recorder, they'll work great. It doesn't have to be anything fancy.
I agree too. I do agree, because I've seen some of my best ones have came from the cheapest recorders, $29, and with tax $31.
Right,
It picks
exactly.
up perfect. You have no background noise. And there's other ones that I've spent. Well, I didn't personally spin, but other ones have had, and $100 recorders, and all I hear in the background is water noise, background noise, this, that. I hear too much nonsense going on to where
Right.
I can't really. I have to edit it too much in order to figure out what's happening.
Oh yeah, exactly. Just your basic stuff can work wonders.
So that's a good answer, because I like that, and I was actually kind of interested in myself in that question as well. Other than Sandra wanting to know, now, are you open to investigating with other teams, or do you investigate with other teams?
I am. I'm very open to it. When we did Birdcage Theater, we had taken a couple people from another team with us. Unfortunately, it seems like everyone out here is kind of into their own thing, so there's not a lot of opportunities for it. I do know of people who used to have paranormal teams and things like that, that, we talk and, they tell me, different things that, they had found and blah, blah, blah. But, I am all for paranormal unity. I am all for it. I have no problems with it. It's just getting everyone else to agree with that.
I agree as well with what you said. There's another question. Sorry about that. I was reading it in the chat room. I'm just going to read it exactly what it says. It says, this is from Darby. It says, my daughter has what she calls her boy. He is dead and has blood all over him. I might have missed it, but what does she say to her children to comfort them? So how do you go about comforting your children whenever they do see things like this?
I basically, when my children were getting afraid of these things, I tell them that, they were just people, it's nothing scary. They were flesh and blood like us. They lived their life for whatever reason they passed. And a lot of times if they're here, it's because they need something. That's my personal opinion. Something is unresolved or something's going on, and sometimes all you need to do is just listen, and that helps.
It really does. Listening does help a lot especially when it comes to this field and they're seeing things that they shouldn't be seeing.
Right.
So, and another question inside the chat: what are your thoughts on the ghost box?
You know, I personally don't use them. For entertainment purposes on my hunts and things like that, I do. But on investigations out here, they don't work very well in Tucson. Then again, I just have a cheaper version. So maybe if I went more expensive, it might be better. But we pick up on way too many like radio stations out here
Hmm.
and so much static out here that it's really hard to figure out what's paranormal on them and what's not.
I I agree.
Yeah.
I've had my better luck with the ghost box, spirit box when I am isolated more away from the city life because it picks up too much radio frequency, picks up this, picks up that. I love it when I'm in jails. Like you mentioned the Ohio State Reformatory. I think that
Right.
would be a perfect location with how thick those walls are.
Right.
Seal, you probably would just pick up nothing but replies.
Right. Well, hopefully, yeah.
Now, another question inside chat. I'm actually curious if you might even know what this is. I don't even know what this device is, but what are your thoughts on the Ghost Arc? Have you ever heard of the Ghost Arc? I guess it's a device.
I believe I've heard of it, but I have never used it, so I can't give an opinion on it.
Yeah, same here. I'm there. Have you now? I'm getting questions all over the place through Facebook and on the Messenger, so I'm trying to keep up here.
Okay.
Here. Now, this is from somebody through Facebook. Where is the most evidence you've collected? What location have you gone to where you're just bam, 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 just hitting it down left and right with evidence? You don't have to sit for hours and wait. It's just one after another.
That would definitely be that very first location that I've done that unfortunately I can't name.
Hmm.
That one, and trust me, if I could buy the building, I would totally do it. We would sit down and you would hear footsteps coming to you. You would hear knocks, you would hear water drops, and there was no water to the building at all. It was non-stop. That was the very first time I investigated. That was, the very first time that I had something follow me home.
Hmm.
I was touched. And then when I went back, I mean, because we had so much evidence that I couldn't even present it all to the guy.
that's
And
that's a downside and a plus side, I guess.
yeah, it was just, it would have taken me forever because we had so many voices and so much going on. And when I went back to present the evidence to him, we had the sounds of footsteps coming up to us, listening to me do the evidence review with them.
Hmm.
And I even got touched then. Somebody started playing with my hair as I was doing that.
While you were reviewing the evidence, like going over it with them.
Yeah, I totally had my hair like completely played with.
Now,
And
do you think that's because this is kind of just like a theory on mine? I kind of just want to see if you agree with it.
mhm.
When you go to these locations, do you think that these spirits attach themselves to the equipment that we use because they sense that we're able to communicate with them through that? They can say, wow, I can hear this individual talking to me. I haven't been talked to in so long. I'm going to attach myself to this digital voice recorder, which comes home with you. And then that's where these spirits follow you from. It's not necessarily an attachment to you, but the equipment you use because they realize that that's where they're able to talk to you through.
Right. It could be. It could be a number of things. It could be you personally. It could be your equipment. It could be a lot of things. I just know that location, the spirits loved the fact that I was talking to them and loved the fact that they were being noticed because they were so active. And that's the one and only time that I did that little shave and the haircut, knock. And we actually got the 2 bits in response.
The 2-bit,
Yeah, the knock.
the knocks. Nice.
Yeah, that's the only location that ever worked on.
Here, here is another question in chat. Have you ever came in contact with a demon other than I know you did mention the one that in Jerome,
Right.
but have you came in contact with anything else within like Tucson or anywhere else? And just why or why not was it demonic to you, or do you just feel like it was more evil than demonic?
Even in Jerome, I don't think it was necessarily demonic. I think it was just negative and bad. Um, I'm one that I don't look at things and think demonic right away. I think those are very rare. On all the locations I've been to, I've dealt with negative things, but I don't think I've ever dealt with anything demonic.
Would you want to? Like, what if you actually came across it? Would you go and get help in order to help you with that case, or would you just tackle it head on and say that this is my job? This is what it comes with the good and the bad, just like any office day that a 9 to 5er has. So would you tackle it head on?
Yes, I would. We were going to do cases that we didn't know what we were heading into. And so basically I tell my team members I will be the one that deals with it. And I arm them with things like holy water and things like that.
So have you used holy water before?
Yes, I have.
Have you?
Yes, I have. Not on myself, but I haven't had to be drenched in holy water yet, thank God. But
start drinking it and everything, just bathe.
Yeah, exactly. Just have it every day to drink.
Right.
No, not even close. No, as I said, I've had to cleanse my house before. I did buy haunted objects that I brought into my house, and I know some people will say you're insane because you have kids, but we did have something negative, as I said. So I did like this little thing where I had some holy water and I mixed it with some other stuff, and I kind of sprayed it throughout the house. So.
Now, if you sprayed that throughout your house?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Another question came through that was kind of similar to that, to kind of just add on to that. This question is on Facebook. It says, what can I use to protect myself on investigations? Also, what do I need to cleanse and protect my home since this individual has kids? You have kids, and you did just say you spray holy water. So is there anything else you do?
What I actually do, well, I personally, I bought a blessed amulet that I wear or carry on me, I should say, at all times. Not even investigations, just at all times, because I've noticed that I can go to any place, and if it's haunted, the spirit knows me for some reason and approaches me for whatever reason. It's been like that my whole life. I consider myself kind of sensitive. They know that I can sense them, so they like to come over to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I carry like a little amulet on me that's been blessed at all times. And then for my house, I have the holy water, and I also have like lavender, and I mix like the holy water and lavender with some water, and I go through my house and I spray that, and I say, like a prayer, like an Our Father or what have you. And then I also announce that, if there's anything negative in the house, it must leave now. So far, it's worked for me. So we'll see. I know other people, they use sage, different things. I think it's more of a personal taste and what you're comfortable with.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, some people like using, I believe it's salt to protect themselves,
Right.
old remedy, but I've seen it, like the holy water, like you said, certain charms and necklaces, like you said, that are blessed. So I agree. I think it is kind of just what you feel more comfortable.
Right, exactly. Because if you're not comfortable with a certain way of, cleansing your house or, keeping yourself safe, then it's not really going to work because of the fact that you're not comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm. Now,
so it's a personal.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, personal reference. Absolutely.
Right.
So another situation from what we were just talking about there. Now, if you're fully protected when investigating, do you think that will hinder the investigation a little bit? Do you think that will, set back things, I guess, when it comes to getting evidence?
I don't think so.
This was from chat too, by the way. I just wanted to let you know someone asked that through chat.
Okay, yeah, not a problem. I think it's more, again, a personal choice. I've had like ghost hunts to where, people come in, armed with, different things that have been blessed and all this stuff, and they remove it during the hunt because of the fact that they want to experience things.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I think it's more of a personal thing. I personally, even with this charm that I have on me, I've still, I had that charm on me when I was in Jerome, and I felt the negative. So it doesn't really stop it completely.
It's just more like
Um,
a mental thing
I think so,
to help.
because, I feel, that if I needed to, hold on to it to give me strength or something, it's there. And I think it all boils down, to be quite honest, is your faith.
Mm.
I've, since doing this, completely and totally have gained a bigger faith in God, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
And so I just feel that He will protect me. And I know of people who like carry rosaries and things like that because of the fact that they just feel like if they just grab onto that and pray really hard,
It
that the
helps.
negative will go away.
Yeah, absolutely. I had part of my team, that's come and gone and broken up throughout the time that I've been doing this. They had rosaries, and it would help their anxiety go down.
All right.
Yeah, they would just hold it. And I never knew the concept, but if it works for them, it works for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now, do you ever get any bad or rude feedback from people whenever you let people know that you are a paranormal investigator, or when you try to book a location? Do people just insult you, or just I don't want any part in that, leave me alone, blah 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 type stuff?
Oh yeah. To say the least, yeah. I've had some really bad comments made to me. I actually kind of lost a few people that I had known for years once I started doing this, because they basically told me I was letting the devil into my house and, exposing my kids to, everything demonic in the world. And they wanted nothing to do with me anymore.
And yeah, a lot of people do think spirits are just strictly demonic and evil, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And, I, you know, tried to be as respectful as I could. And I said, look, I've had a lot of personal experiences. I know from these personal experiences that it's not all demonic, it's not all evil. And this is my passion. This is what I want to do. So, as much as I respect you, you need to respect me in return. Unfortunately, that didn't fly over and they unfriended me. But and then there's, times that, when I announce who I am and what I do, and, especially when it comes to different businesses, they're like, go away. We want nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
So you get that, and then there's others that embrace it. Where I do my hunts at is La Casina here in Tucson, and they embrace it. They love it. They will tell anyone about the ghost stories. If anyone asks, they're right on that, and they're telling you every story they know. And I love locations like that because they're so easy to work with.
They really are. Yeah, when they're more lenient with you, they help you out. They want to be involved. It's definitely amazing.
Right, exactly.
When now, whenever you were speaking about the demonic, everybody thinks, when you're just messing with the devil. They're gonna possess your kids, yourself, everybody in the world. Now, have you ever considered going into a location and trying to open up a darker portal in order to get different evidence other than not, I don't want to say the same old same evidence, because every location is different and you can go to the same location the next day and get different evidence. But have you ever just tried to open up that type of realm in order to classify a different type of evidence?
No. Only because of the fact that a lot of the locations I go to, number one, they're either private residents, and I'm not going to torture people that I go to help with opening up doors.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is, with the businesses, I don't want to ever bring in something that shouldn't be there to these businesses.
Absolutely.
So, I don't try to mess with things that aren't there. I just try to mess with things that are there.
So what are your thoughts on Ouija boards then? Do you believe in them, or do you think it's just another form of communication like a digital voice recorder?
I personally haven't used one on investigations. The last time I used one, I was a teenager, and honestly, nothing happened. I've heard horror stories about them, and then I've heard, well, what's the difference, between using them and, your K2 type thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there is a difference, or not really at all?
I honestly couldn't tell you. My team prefers not to use one. My curiosity has been kind of going up on it. But for the most part, I think we've kind of stirred away from it. I have been approached and asked if, my team would go and participate, in using one. And I suggested to the person that they don't use it so they don't open up doors that they're unfamiliar with. Because I definitely think you can open up doors with those. I definitely think you are inviting things in. Whether or not they all be demonic or not, I can't say for sure because, as I said, I don't personally use them. So,
And a lot of demonic likes to, from what we've been told, plays as children to be able to trick you, to get you to talk to them more, to open up that doorway more. So it's really hard to even tell when a demonic entity's coming through to begin with.
right, exactly.
Most of the time. Now, there's another question on Facebook. What are, or do you know if there are any signs for this, to look for when a loved one passes away and that loved one's trying to communicate with you? Have you ever experienced that before? Or do you have any theories on what those signs may be?
I do have an experience with that in my past. I was actually staying in my grandma's old apartment, and my oldest daughter was only about a year at the time, and she was happily playing on the floor. All of a sudden, she looked up, acted like she grabbed someone's hand, and went straight to my grandmother's bedroom. So I'm pretty convinced that my grandmother came back to see, my baby, because we were very close, and I didn't have a baby until after she had passed. So I definitely think they can come back. I definitely think they do visit. Some signs can be as simple, the smell of their perfume or cologne, something just appearing, out of nowhere that, you guys did together, a movie ticket, whatever, simple things. It can be anything. But I definitely think that they can come back and, say hello.
Absolutely. Now, this is going to be the last question, and then we'll kind of wrap this up for the evening. This is from the same individual, Sandra, who just asked that one question. And it says, how can I get a loved one to come to you? Like, okay, so how can you get one to come to you? Is there anything special that you have to do rather than just... that's really the question. Do you think maybe if this person had a special cologne or perfume to wear, do you think you should spray that around? Do you think you should use something as a trigger object to get that one to come out?
You can use a trigger object. I personally, I don't call for loved ones that have passed, because if they are resting in peace, then that's where they need to be, is resting in peace. So I don't really try to do things like that.
I actually have a question too on this one. I was actually thinking of this today, and you just triggered that.
Okay.
I'm going to try to say it as best as I can without stuttering over my words and everything. Now, when someone passes away, when people say they just want them to rest in peace and not be contacted, do you think that when people are contacting these spirits, they're not able to move on? Or do you think that they do move on, but when you try to contact them, they're forced to come back and speak to you, and then they're stuck here? Because a lot of people do say, well, that so-and-so just died, just let them pass on, let them move on, don't open up communication with them. And if that's the case, then why is everybody even ghost hunting? You know what I mean?
Right.
Why? Because if that's the case, then they're keeping all these spirits here, which is just torturing their soul according to the paranormal world.
Right.
So, we should, in reality, let them all rest. Or do you think that when these spirits die, their soul is stuck here? It's just whether or not they have enough energy to speak to you?
I think there's several different things that, go on here. I think some are in need of help. I think some just come back to visit. And, I think some are just happy where they're at. It just depends. There's so many types of different hauntings, and that's why we're doing this. We're trying to figure it all out. I definitely think that they can come and go as they please. I don't think they're stuck in one location. Some maybe, because of different, reasons or whatever. But, I like to think that, I had an aunt that always wanted to go to Hawaii. And, I like to think that maybe now since she passed on, that she finally did get to go to Hawaii. It's nice thoughts, that, they can do whatever they want now since they passed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, It's the unknown. That's what we're trying to find answers to, and hopefully one day we will know the answers.
And I agree. That's what makes the paranormal paranormal. It's unknown. Nobody
Right.
really knows. We just have our own theories, to go off of and our own experiences.
Yes, exactly.
And then we kind of just sync those up with other investigators to really validate those theories to make them more factual than what they are.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap this up. It's about that time. So is there anything else you kind of want to say about the tours, or where can people contact you at, on social media wise, the name of your group, all that stuff?
Well, I have Facebook pages for all of them. Tucson Ghost Company is the major one for Facebook. And I have a website, which is under TucsonGhostTour.com. So those would probably be the major outlets. Once you contact me on Facebook, you'll find out that I'm pretty much all over social media, though.
Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff.
Oh, yeah, of
Every
course.
social media who isn't nowadays?
Of course.
So, all right. Well, it was awesome chatting with you, Becky. I really did enjoy it. I got a lot of information.
Well, thank you for having me as your very first guest.
Yeah, it was an honor. I'm excited. And I'd love to have you come back on, a few weeks or maybe a few months later after you do some more investigations to kind of touch base with how things have changed. Maybe your theories and beliefs have changed within the next couple months with certain investigations.
Well, I would love to be back whenever you want me back.
Awesome. Good to know. And I want to thank everybody who tuned in tonight, everybody in chat who asked some awesome questions, Sandra, Darby, Amy, and again, Becky, for coming on. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to say goodnight, and I hope to see everybody back and then some next week, Wednesday at 9:30 for 2 other special guests that I'm going to have on. And that's it. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you. My name is Stephen Urcantello, founder and lead investigator of Superior Paranormal. My first encounter with spirits occurred when I was a teenager living in Fort Myers, Florida. As of recent, I've decided to fully dedicate myself to the paranormal, uncovering a passion within that I now breathe, sleep, and live for. Not only am I here to share my stories from personal experiences and documented experiences, but also to hear, share, and understand your encounters, adventures, and paranormal events. So follow me as we discuss theories, opinions, facts, and the experiences of others as they share their superior paranormal events.